I'm really excited to introduce all of you to Jeffrey Guillot with
the Suburban Millennial Institute.
So what does that mean? What do you do?
So the Suburban Millennial Institute is an advocacy organization that works on promoting job creation, millennial retention, and family support in America's suburbs.
That's really important because in the millennial study, we noted that there's actually a lot of millennials that aren't working right now and looking for employment.
Oh yeah, well, millennial unemployment is a real issue, and it's compounded by the fact that financially millennials have a far tougher time than previous generations, and there's a myriad of factors that contribute to that.
Absolutely, we've seen that with student debt, college debt, and all sorts of different issues, right?
Sure.
So how did you segue into? I know you have a very impressive political background. I read your bio, it was like half a page, and I was like, how old is Jeff? Did he start when he was 2 in diapers? Because this was incredible what you've done.
I appreciate that. I actually was a starving actor before I got into the world of politics.
It's a perfect background, right?
No, it really is, because if you have ever auditioned in your life and have ever performed in front of an audience before, you're automatically better at public speaking. And I think perhaps more importantly of all, you can take rejection exceptionally well.
Oh, interesting.
And if you come with a background in electoral campaigns, or if you've ever worked the audition circuit here in New York, you have to have some very thick skin.
Yeah, that you do. And you've done really well. I mean,
thank you.
You've gone from every role was quite impressive. Well, we're going to have to make sure to share that with you, and you can learn more about that in the book that we're putting together that features Jeff. So let's talk about the Institute. What is your advocacy program?
Well, our advocacy program is to first of all try to provide a voice to this cohort. Okay. Despite the fact that the millennial generation is now statistically the largest generation in America, oftentimes folks don't really know how to talk to them, and there are a myriad of studies being done trying to figure out exactly the best way to communicate with this group. Traditional methods don't work. If you're trying to gather data on millennial attitudes towards anything, using traditional methods like polling or that relies on landlines or emails and stuff,
or like newspapers,
that. Or newspapers, it's tough to do. It's hard to get an accurate sample of the population.
Right.
And furthermore, it's the most diverse generation we've ever had.
So how do you reach them?
The answer is there's no one way to do it.
Okay.
Social media obviously plays a bigger role than it's ever played before in trying to interface with the millennial cohort.
That's what we found in our study too. Actually, we found that millennials, by a large margin, prefer social media. Second, they prefer the internet. Sure. Newspapers was dead last.
Oh yeah. Well, I think a lot of millennials are phone adverse too. I'm personally not. I enjoy talking on the phone, but most folks aren't. So you have to find alternate means of communication to get a message across to people,
right,
for sure. And so the way millennials consume data, I think has a direct influence too on the way they interact in the workplace. And you're seeing that generation have a profound effect on the declination of your standard 9-to-5 jobs, on the way that the traditional career ladder is viewed, and a wide variety of other things.
Yes, and very much so. Let's talk about your background in politics and how that kind of segued over to your institute now.
Sure. Well, I spent some time working in the State House up in Albany. I also was once a staffer for a member of Congress from Queens.
Yes.
And I think understanding how the sausage is made, so to speak, and working in the world of public policy helps you understand the very complex issues that face millennials who choose to live in the suburbs. Understanding the reason why a lot of suburbs, especially here in New York and in New Jersey and Connecticut, are unaffordable, is inherently rooted in public policy on the local level. And so it's important, I think, to take that kind of a background into any advocacy campaign, and that's what we're doing here. I mean, one of the main reasons why you're seeing an exodus of young folks from places like Long Island and Northern Jersey and Westchester is because it's simply not affordable, and the property tax structure is such, and student loan debt is such.
I love that you.
Very tough.
Oh, I apologize. I love that you brought that up, because part of the study we found, obviously I'm in financial news a lot, and I always hear people, financial analysts say, millennials are not interested in buying real estate. They're not interested in buying a home. They just want to rent. And I find that to be completely not the case. And when we did this study, we found that to be not the case at all. My question was, would you want to purchase a home in the next 10 years? It was an overwhelming majority. So obviously, we're assuming that they don't want to because they're not buying homes. But like you said, it's not affordable, right? And also they're younger. And when you're just starting off, the millennial range is 18 to 34. For many, they're just trying to get their feet strong, or their legs strong, I should say. They're not like you, where you've already had this tremendous background, but a lot of times that when they're first job, they're thinking about where they want to plant their roots.
Sure. Well, and then there's a myriad of factors that contribute to that. And first and foremost, I think, and we talked about this before, is the rise of student loan debt. It is now the second most popular form of debt, to the extent debt is ever popular.
It's shocking.
The second most dominant form of debt in this country, and you can't refinance it like a lot of other kinds of debt. And as a result, that really hurts, one, credit ratings, which are integral in owning a home, and two, your cash flow situation. I mean, you do need to put that down payment down, and if you're paying $800 a month to either the federal government or a private lender like Navient or Sallie Mae, then that's a real problem.
It is.
Also, a lot of millennials stay in higher education longer than previous generations did, and more young folks go into four-year degree programs than they ever have before. So you're seeing folks enter the workforce later and later, and with more and more debt. So the two things compound each other.
So, hypothetical question for you, Jeff. If you are advising the President of the United States, whoever this person may be, what would you advise her or him as it pertains to or bringing in the community of millennials and making sure that they were well represented in I guess, political matters?
Well, first of all, I think that the millennial cohort, as it will, was one of the driving forces in electing the current president.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, of course, is a lot of those folks showed up on election day in 2008 and 2012, and we have never seen or heard from them again. So if I'm the next president of the United States, regardless of their affiliation or gender, it's really important to push civic engagement, and that's a real problem, I think, among millennials today. Is they show up when you bombard them with a lot of social media. But, and as a professor of state and local government, I can say this with certainty, the stuff that happens at the level below the presidential level, on your state and local level, on the, if you're in New York City, on the community board level, is so much more important and has so much more bearing on
their daily lives,
the way your money is spent, and whether or not the area you live in is affordable.
Right.
So participate in government is a really important thing. And there are a myriad of initiatives out there that are aimed at increasing millennial participation in government and making it easier to vote. All of those things are critically important. Those are things my organization supports.
Wonderful. And so how can we learn more about you and your organization? So I definitely want to keep on top of what you're doing.
Sure. Our website is suburbanmillennial.com. Check that out. We're very soon launching a very ambitious project to data map a lot of the most prominent suburban regions throughout the country.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Well, no one, to my knowledge, has ever actually taken a look at what's on the ground in the suburbs of New York, New Jersey, Chicago, out in Southern California, and tried to figure out what are the socioeconomic needs of this specific group, of this specific sector of the population.
This sector, you do mean millennials in suburban
That's exactly
areas?
right.
Okay.
And if you want to elevate this to the level of political discourse, the America's cities will always vote one way. America's rural places will always vote one way, and they're opposite ways. Regardless of who you are, if you want to win congressional elections, and if you want to win the presidential election, the road to that goes through the suburbs of Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Florida, and places like that. So it's incredibly important to understand the needs of this group. What can government do from a policy perspective to make their lives easier and make them more affordable?
That is so true, because as millennials get older and they start to have children and have families and have to take care of their parents, they're going to end up in these particular cities or areas. So that needs to be better understood.
Right, absolutely. And so we're endeavoring to fill that void and to do exactly that.
Wonderful. So you're going to be doing surveys and research and all that.
Absolutely. And that is our big push heading into the all-important 2016 presidential election year.
Well, I won't even ask you who you think is going to get elected, because I won't do that to you.
I appreciate that.
But I really, really appreciate this conversation. I've so enjoyed meeting you, and definitely you have brought so much more education to me, because this is an area I actually did not know about. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jeff, so much for
Pleasure's
coming
mine.
in.